This video will introduce the concept of foreign keys and referential integrity. These are two very important concepts and are used in creating relationships between a database's tables. First, we're going to see what a foreign key is. A good working definition for a foreign key is an attribute or set of attributes that refer to a primary key. As you'll see in the coming weeks, foreign keys are defined when a database table is created. Okay, first off, let's use the company database to show how a foreign key works. The employee table has an attribute, DNO, that points to the D number field in the department table. Based on that knowledge, you should be able to figure out which department each employee works in. For example, let's try to find out which department John Smith works in. We see that John's row has a DNO of 5, which points to the research department in the department table. Well, what about Ahmed? We see that he's in the administration department. Hopefully that's making sense to you, so let's take a look at the relationship between the dependent and the employee. The foreign key ESSN is in the dependent table, and it points to the SSN attribute in the employee table. If I asked you to tell me the employee that Abner is related to, you should be able to see that the ESSN for Abner points to the SSN for Jennifer. So, a recap, the definition for a foreign key is an attribute, or maybe a set of attributes, that refer to a primary key. You might have noticed that this definition differs slightly from what's in the book. The book's definition states that a foreign key is an attribute that is a key of one or more relations other than the one in which it appears. Now there's a couple problems with this. First, if a foreign key refers to a composite primary key, the foreign key will be made up of the same number of attributes that are in the primary key. So it's not just a single attribute all the time. Second, a foreign key may also refer to the same relation in which that foreign key is, which it resides. So let's take a look at both of these issues in a little more detail. First, let's look at the composite keys. We've seen this class schedule before, and we've added another table now that tracks the courses that students have enrolled in. In order to link these tables, you can see that the composite key for the schedule has 3 attributes. Therefore, that student enrolled table needs to have those same attributes to be able to point to the schedule. Now let's switch back to the company database. We can see an example of a foreign key pointing to its own relation here. This instance is called a recursive relationship. Let's look at that employee table where we can see an example. Each employee has a supervisor, okay? And that supervisor's social security number is stored in the employee's record in the super SSN field. This is a foreign key that points to the employee table. That super SSN points to the SSN of the supervisor. So let's take a look at how this works. If we look at Jennifer's record, her supervisor has a SSN of 888-66-5555. If we find the person who has that SSN, we can see that her supervisor is James. Now you might have noticed that James' super SSN field is null. This means that he doesn't have a supervisor, and he is the CEO of the company. All right, now that we've seen some examples of foreign keys, let's talk about referential integrity constraints. The first thing I want to point out is make sure that we're all on the same page with what a constraint is. According to Merriam-Webster, a constraint is the state of being checked, restricted, or compelled to avoid or perform some action. And that really applies to what we're talking about here with the referential integrity constraint. This definition of a constraint helps us understand the referential integrity constraint better. We've seen how foreign keys reference primary keys, and referential integrity ensures that the integrity of those relationships remains. It's kept intact. A good working definition of a referential integrity constraint is a foreign key must point to an existing primary key. Unlike foreign keys which are created when the database table is created, referential integrity is constantly being checked as the database is being used. Let's take a look at an example of something that would break referential integrity. Currently, every dependent in our company database has an associated employee. What if we were going to add a dependent named Sajir and the employee's social security number is 555-66-7777? As you can see, there isn't an employee in the employee table with that social security number. Therefore, we can't add a dependent with that employee social security number. If we did, the dependent would not have any employee to point to, right? And that would break the referential integrity. All right, well, that concludes this video on foreign keys and referential integrity. Please see the next video for a little more information about databases.